Hi, I'm Keith, and welcome to my art studio, where today I have something very special for you. I have, on mixed media paper, my Battle Hippo. What is a Battle Hippo? A Battle Hippo is a hippo with armor. He's going to go out and kick some tail. He's made with colored pencil, ink wash, acrylics, and watercolors. And I'm going to show you exactly how I made this right now. This painting is more cartoony than my other works. But I have a long history with cartoons, going back to high school. When I was a freshman, I was on the high school paper, which is a big deal because freshmen usually weren't on the paper. But they knew I could do cartooning, so they asked me to be there. And my first year, I got first place in the state of Nebraska in editorial cartooning, which I've never forgot. I never forgot. That medal is somewhere in my house. I don't know where it's at. So I've done lots and lots of cartooning, so making this picture was not difficult for me. Later on in college, I got into caricature art, which I kind of learned from reading Mad Magazine. I love the caricature stuff. I stole tons of ideas. So cartooning and me go along just great. But this here, what I'm doing, is more of a study in how to do my pencil work and my painting techniques. Because, someday somebody's going to call me or send me an email and, hire me to be some big deal artist for Hollywood or something. I just know it. Which is not true because I'm on Instagram and I see lots of artists I follow who just kick my tail. And, it makes me want to just quit, because why try? Especially with AI. I should have started this off by saying this video is AI free. And if you want to know what I think about AI, I can sum it up pretty quick. I hate AI. Okay, right here, I'm making a jewel. It's like a ruby. And usually I make those with paint. But I thought, what the heck? I got the pencils, the colored pencils. I went to the store, bought some. I'm not used to using colored pencils. I thought, what if I made my ruby out of pencil instead? Well, how would it look? And actually, I was kind of impressed how that worked. It took more time, but I was able to do be more specific in what I wanted with the pencil versus the brush. I just got into colored pencils just recently. You'd think after all these years that I would have been into them more, but I never was. Because I thought they kind of looked cheesy, but you know what? I kind of like it. Plus, it kind of mutes down my paintings. Because if you look at my paintings on Instagram and DeviantArt, they're kind of very colorful. And that's one problem I have is I tend to use the paint right out of the tube, and I don't really mix them down, and everything looks so bright and colorful, which is fine for some people. But sometimes, a nice little muted looking painting would be great. And this colored pencil business here kind of helped me with that effect. So all of the colors in the armor were done with pencil, where later on I do more colors with some paint. And I really like the way this pencil looked, because it gives me so much control over what I'm doing. Plus, I started off in art as a pencil guy. I was the guy in high school who had the Mad Magazine who would doodle and doodle and doodle. I kind of wish I could go back in time and get a book of all the thousands of doodles I did on the backs of my schoolwork. Some of my doodles end up being my paintings. I'm a chronic doodler, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It was an outlet for me at the time. And I got a reputation as an artist because of it. So here I am. I made that mouth part, kind of it's like a cheek. I don't know what it is. I did it with pencil. And I love the way it looked with pencil. And I'm going to keep on using these pencils. It doesn't mean I'm going to give up on the paint, because I also love the way the paint looks. So I love when I mix it up and do both. It's really kind of cool. So I'm adding some more reds, it's the gums, it's the tongue, it's the side of the cheeks, get all that in there. And then, this part here, I'm painting over something where I didn't even want you to see it, because I tried something with the pencil and I didn't like it. So I have a tube of paint, right out of the tube. It's gray paint with a little bit of blue mixed into it. I just used it but I had an idea for it, so it didn't matter. I used this technique with a different painting, which turned out fantastic. I thought, I'm going to try this again. I'm going to use a dark background. I'm going to make these, I don't know what you call them. It's like a blister or it's something. It's part of the skin. And I go through and I put these on there. And make them fit. This is fun. This would be a fun project for kids, I think. If you had some kids and wanted to paint, show them how this is done. Because it's easy to do. It's fun. It's basically just filling in, blocking in colors with these shapes, putting these shapes in. Now I noticed that I didn't put enough white in there, so I had to go back towards the nose and kind of lighten it up a little bit more. But once I get these all in here, then comes the fun part. And I'll tell you about it in a second here. But right now, I'm going through and just, get my highlights, not highlights really, this is more of a overall tone so that my skin sticks out off the background. So I'm thinking, I got these pencils. I bought myself 3 different white pencils because different brands have different ways of looking. So I took one of them, and I liked this because it came off pretty easy, and I drew the highlights on. Where normally I would take a fine line brush and then brush them on. But here I had so much control over what I was doing. It was awesome. It was cool that I could actually do the highlights just the way I wanted to. And where, with a paintbrush you can do the same thing, but it takes more. It's not as precise. I could be just as precise as I wanted by doing this. So I put the highlights on the top. And then, coming up here pretty quick, I grab another pencil. I start putting the shadow on the bottoms. And when you put the highlights on the tops and the shadows on the bottoms, those little things just pop. They just pop, 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 pop right off the page. I wanted to add some black to this. I knew I did, so I went through with my ink and I inked a pattern on the bottom. And I didn't want it to be overpowering, so I just did the bottom half of my little hippo guy. And once again, I added highlights so my structures, or where those things are, the skin would pop off there. Now I am grabbing some of my ink wash. I love ink wash. I love ink wash. If you follow my page, you know I love ink wash because I wanted to have something on the outside so my highlights would pop off. And my hippopotamus in my world has hair. So I took my black ink and I put in some blobs, took my brush pen, brand new, I just found these things like last week, and I put in a bunch of hair. And I love this brush pen because I can do so much with it. Back to my cartoon stuff, Grab my white pencil, put some white hairs over the black, and then that part is done. I do a little glaze here with yellow. I think I picked yellow because it's opposite of blue on the color wheel and it would stand out. That little pattern on there was a super, super simple thing I just did. Some little round, look like little 8s with pencil. Didn't make a big deal out of it. Right here, I wanted to put a separation line between my blue and my black. And I wanted it to be white. Super simple, just a little design. The fun part of this painting was the design part of it. Now, I once again, I want to ask you to like this and subscribe to it. I'm on DeviantArt under Keith Trimm. I'm under Instagram. Obviously, I'm on YouTube right here because you're watching me. And you can like and subscribe and watch all my stuff. I have hundreds and hundreds of videos like this where I do all kinds of different things. Most of it is painting. And just recently, like I said, I got into the pencils, and I'm going to keep on using those. So if you want to be a painter or learn, I can teach you. If you just enjoy watching, like watching Bob Ross, like I did when I was a kid, just watch me do it. And right now I am going through, I'm probably adding just the very last set of highlights on here. I'm sure I am. I'm getting close to being done. Sign my name. That's the finished project. Thank you for being here. I do appreciate it.